mostly going to be on the right side, on the inside. Oh yeah, this monitor really helps. Oh, it looks great.
Cool.
Tell everyone your name.
My name is Ted Barrow. 47 years old. I haven't seen you for maybe 25 years.
Yeah, Ted, good to see you.
What's up, Brian? Yeah.
So, you are in Tempe.
I know.
And what are you here for?
This was the second annual Slow Impact conference hosted by ASU. It's a skate academic conference. And I've been lucky enough to be invited twice to host a panel. This year I did architecture and skateboarding. And last year I did art and skateboarding. Yeah,
you're a doctor now, huh?
PhD.
PhD in?
Art history.
Very cool, man.
Yeah. Poor, hateful, and depressed. No.
For anyone who doesn't know, because a lot of my followers won't know anything about it, just a real quick
Yeah.
what's up with Slow Impact?
It's a nationwide, but also kind of farther reaching international conference of skateboarders who are involved in some form of like charity work, NGOs, academia. There's like readings, people gave papers. A lot of it is focused on like social movements, but it can be anything really. And probably a lot of the people who were at the conference who are still straggling are like skating Mitchell right now. Definitely, or those are locals, who knows. I was here for the, I say I was here for the conference, but I was really here for Mitchell. That is the perfect size of obstacles. I don't think I can really comfortably skate much faster than that small slab of concrete allows you to skate. And yeah, it's like everything that I like to skate in two sad little slabs. But like the school itself looks good. It's like feels like this little peaceful oasis, which I guess is a word that's overused in Arizona in the desert. Oasis. We heading right?
Yeah.
I moved to the Bay Area like 4 years ago in February of 2020, and I lived on Bush and Mason since 2021, 2022, and then my partner Josephine and I moved to our own place, like Western Addition, Japantown, Pack Heights, whatever that neighborhood is. Where did you guys live? Like when you and Chris?
Oh, we lived at Hyde and Geary.
Hyde and Geary.
Top of the Tenderloin.
That's what I thought. Yeah. I'm not sure which house I stayed at.
You were at that one at least once because there's photos of you there.
Yeah. I just wasn't sure which intersection it was.
Okay, real quick before I forget.
Yeah.
I gotta tell my audience, I'm on a brand new camera that I've never used. Normally I use a gimbal. I'm not using a gimbal right now. Let's go all the way back. So
yeah,
I know Ted from high school days.
Yeah, awesome.
Cheers.
What up, man? Yeah, you're from South
Tempe
Austin.
Weird. Yeah, South Austin. You were from North Austin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't see Ted too much because he was so far north, and I didn't have a car till I was 18.
You weren't the one with the like souped up bug. That was Robbie, right?
Yeah, that was Robbie.
Yeah. One of the coolest things you ever did, it was like I was staying in San Francisco with you guys, and I like showed up with like this whack consolidated board, and it had like no pop. It was super soggy, like right out the gate. 96, 97, yeah. And like you guys were like ordering like $30 foundation boards or something. And I remember like kind of like not even assertively, but just being like, hey dude, like you want to like sell me one of those boards, dude? And you're like, don't fucking pressure me, dude. and I, you know, I was obviously at the time I was like, ooh, but I was like, yeah, good. I'm glad Brian said that, man. I was being like, you know, I wasn't being assertive, I was just being kind of like whiny, and you just put an end to it right there. That was, as far as I recall, that's the only time you were remotely a dick to me. But you did have like a, you know, there's awesome footage of you getting angry at people on the street for things that are debatably their fault, but it's like you running into them and then you yell at them.
Yeah, I had a lot of that skate.
Yeah, but
Those
that was
skate demons that a lot of us had.
But that was also like, you know, the 90s were a kind of angry and hostile time, so it wasn't all you. Like, it was just like, there's like people, kids in their teens, everyone's treating us like we're like pariahs, and then yeah, like everyone's angry and you're being encouraged to be angry because you're a skateboarder and it's coming out of this like punk hard edge hip hop thing.
I didn't know that much about your family life, but you always seemed like you had a pretty good family life. I could be way off.
My parents weren't divorced. I didn't realize it at the time, but like, yeah, I mean, how many of our friends like grew up in trailers or like single parent household and shit like that in Austin?
Yeah, mine got divorced when I was like 11, so yeah.
Yeah, and probably you discovered skateboarding or got into skateboarding around then too, right?
Exact same year.
Yeah.
And then I was gone, always.
Yep, right. It's a way to escape home.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had some.
When did you get a car?
16.
Okay, how come you think I didn't see you that much in Austin when we were younger? I mean, I definitely remember skating with you many times, but
yeah,
like, not a lot.
Lamar curb, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was pretty atomized, right? Like, I mean, there are a couple reasons. South Austin skaters and North Austin skaters, I'm gonna cut in real quick, didn't really hang out until like the mid 90s. Y'all had your shop, you had Aggro, we had Let's Go. I remember like seeing you guys like at Lamar Curb in 92 or 93, and Chris had the ghetto wears on. And I was like, these guys are cool, I just don't know why we don't hang out. But what I really, yeah, I mean, it's like also in my own little crew, which was mostly North Austin guys and like downtown dudes like Peyton and Brian and Zach Martin and Mosley, Zach Hudson, whatever, Will Huddleston. We were always beefing with each other anyway. Like we would always break off into little immature factions and like hate each other for like a month or something. So
we were doing the same thing.
Yeah. So like maybe we all needed to like battle amongst ourselves and realize we were all friends anyway before we could like, but I actually started hanging out with like Chris and you guys when I had kind of more of a falling out with my North Austin guys.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, I don't even remember what it was about, but it was just some teenager shit. And I just remember like, one, you guys had a little more like you were into a little different music. Like, I think it was Jeremy and Chris got me into Nas. And like Jeremy had the first Wu-Tang tape. First one I knew in Austin that had that. And like, we were still sort of listening to like hieroglyphics and all that bullshit. And so it was like, there was like an East Coast edge. You guys are like into graffiti and shit. Maybe not you, but like, you know, some of you guys, you South Austin skaters, but like, you know, are a little more thuggy and a little more like street, it seemed.
The first time I ever heard of Wu-Tang, I was at a Roots show in Dallas.
Oh, what year was that?
I don't know.
I mean, it's got to be like 93, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Either 92 or 93, probably.
I mean, that album comes out in 93, but who knows if there are mixtapes.
A bunch of stickers, and I'm pretty sure the single, probably the same one Jeremy had.
Wow, yeah.
It's crazy how famous they became very quickly.
I mean, rightfully so, but you know, it seems like an improbable story just for like how they came into the industry. I mean, we were lucky that we could. Austin was not a remote outpost. Like bands came through, you know.
Yeah, they used to call it like the music capital of the world.
Yeah, who knows?
Some people did.
Yeah, Austinites did. It probably is. It's a great music scene.
Tell me about your music taste throughout the years, just like briefly.
Yeah, it was like early on. It was, you know, the Beatles or whatever, you know, like whatever's on the radio, and then I think the first cassette tape I bought after Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, I Love Rock and Roll in 1982 was like Sex Pistols, Nevermind the Bollocks. So it was like punk for like 9 months, but in that 9 months I started skating with like all the downtown dudes. Like at Let's Go Skate, Brian McGuire, Will, Lee Brooks. And I was like, okay, like these dudes, like, I see the Public Enemy shirts in the back of like the Sessions catalog in Thrasher, and they're like next to the like punk shirts. And I was like, everyone's listening to De La and BDP, so I was like, immediately got into hip hop. And yeah, I was like, De La, Native Tongues, like Tribe, Jungle Brothers, all that. And then it was, you know, 92, it's Del the Funky Homo Sapien, and then Souls, and then Cypress Hill, House of Pain, you know, Ice Cube solo shit, Lynch Mob, Dre. I always thought that Dre was kind of corny, but I couldn't, like, you know, he was pop, like that's a major label, but I could not get past, the beats were amazing. And like if you liked lyrics, which we all claim to do, because there's this cool carryover from like skateboarding getting more technical and fluid, and like really layered lyrics, and like, which is why we all liked Hyro, besides the fact that Mike Carroll skated to them. But like, yeah, Paul's Boutique, Beastie Boys, that was a great album. And then it was like, I think Chris was one of the first people, our friend Chris Robinson, who actually like listened to other shit. Like he liked jazz and he liked Tom Waits. And so I had heard Tom Waits a couple times, like when I'd be with my older cousin or like working as an art intern at Laguna Gloria. But Tom Waits was really the gateway drug into like getting into like non-rap, you know?
It was the same for me.
Yeah, right? That's so cool. I mean, I think a lot of people have that story, but not everyone has that story, and it's cool how that happened.
Tell people how to find you.
I guess it's just my Instagram. This is my name, @TedBarrow.
I know how into art you are.
Yeah.
When we, let's see, probably around 94, 95.
Yeah.
I remember Chris and Brian were hanging out a lot, and they were painting a lot.
Brian,
McGuire.
Oh, yeah.
And then when we lived in SF, he painted a lot.
Yep.
Where were you at in there? Were you painting? Were you into art?
My father was a painter and an artist. So, I mean, he did sculpture, he did furniture, he did all watercolors, cartoons, but mostly painting. And so I kind of grew up in that world, but also it being my dad's world, it never really like, that was his world, you know? And when I would see friends doing it, it sort of seemed like, that seems cool, but I can't get into it. I don't know. But in 95, after finishing high school, I shattered my ankle skateboarding in a garage in Far West. And I was supposed to like move out to California to like join you guys or whatever, you know? I was actually gonna go to Santa Barbara. But instead just ended up staying at home and being stuck in bed. I had surgery. I was like, you know, couldn't leave my bed for like a month when I'm 18, you know? Couldn't skate, obviously.
This was 94?
95, yeah. And so I just ended up like, I don't want to say getting really into art, but like I was definitely looking at a lot more art books and listening to like Bob Dylan and getting deeper into other Tom Waits meant something more to me all of a sudden, like different albums, you know? Rain Dogs. And Frank's Wild Years. And at the end of that summer, I still could not skate, but my dad started like, I could drive, and I could go to this dude, Philip Trussell's house in kind of West Austin. And he was just this like, he still is, this amazing Austin art weirdo, like completely devoted to his art, his painting. Yeah, it was kind of that. I just took painting classes, but I really wasn't like learning anything. I was just learning how to talk to artists, or one artist. And he was this really cool guy. He just, one of the few adults I ever encountered that just takes you very seriously wherever you are, you know? As an 18-year-old, you don't know shit about anything. And he was just like, seemed genuinely curious and to like really consider the stupid questions that I would ask him, or just my own ignorance. That wasn't a hindrance, excuse me. I guess through that, I was kind of interested in taking an art history class or something, maybe even studying art in college. And I went to Occidental in LA after a year of living in Austin after high school. And I just inhaled like 20
Yeah, they
gnats.
I usually ride with a mask.
Yeah.
Like a net gator.
That's insane. And I just started studying art history in college. It seemed like this nice like middle place between like literature, like your English classes, and also looking at and learning about art, historical art. It was great, and that's what got me into it. I mean, that's like the only thing that I care almost as much about besides skateboarding is, I guess, art. Like, and not making it, but actually just sort of writing about it and thinking about it and talking about it with other people.
Yeah, it's sick. It's definitely
It's a weird trajectory.
Very unique and welcome perspective
I mean,
in the world of skate graphics and whatnot.
yeah. It's like,
close to what real art looks like.
you know, like that bullshit, like bumper sticker, keep Austin weird. I think we were very lucky to grow up in Austin when we grew up in Austin, because it was a place that was enough off the beaten path that like we were never getting the like first genuine strain of anything coming from like New York or LA or San Francisco or wherever. We were always like getting this like watered down or slightly altered version of something. And I don't know about you, but I never really felt like that I had some genuine connection to like any of these cultures that I was really interested in, including skateboarding. You know, I always thought that Austin was kind of second or third rate. It's not like that anymore. But it did encourage everyone to be weirdos, you know? Like there was no like real big social pressure not to do what you wanted to do. And you think about our friends who grew up there, like everyone did pretty much follow a pretty unconventional path. Like Zach Martin's a farmer, you know? Like Chris lives in Copenhagen with his like German wife and his, I don't know what nationality his three daughters are, you know, and he's got a mini ramp and he kills it, and like
they have citizenship in all three countries.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like if I hadn't met that totally unique and almost only impossible in Austin artist, I don't know if I would have saw that as a way to like be an adult when I was looking for like
your dad's friend.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about high school years before we move on?
I mean, I was so insecure, right? Like, it was miserable. The most fun I had was skating in garages. You know, like, I didn't know how I was constantly measuring myself up to other skaters, my friends, people I didn't know. I immediately, like, assumed the worst about every... I think I was just a really scared little kid. And, you know, I think high school sucks for most people, but I don't think my experience was much worse than anyone else's, but I'm so glad I'm not there. Like,
yeah, for sure.
You know, life only got better and more exciting, and there was more promise the moment I felt like I could shed that skin of high school.
I know with all the podcasts and media nowadays, I know it's cliche to say, but when we grew up, just real briefly, when we grew up, skateboarding was not popular.
Yeah, 100%.
People would pick on us all the time.
I mean, yeah.
We get in fights with jocks downtown all the time.
Totally, yeah, and you know, like, and also I think that like media had a big thing to do with it. Like it made like cities seem really more dangerous than they actually were. So even when you found like some space to skate, you were kind of scared that you were gonna get shot or something, you know, in Austin, which did happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I was heartbroken to leave Austin, like when I went to LA for college, but I was also just like so glad to get to try to be a different person than the person that I was in high school.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue. I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Places you lived.
So from Austin, I moved to LA for school, and I lived in LA for 4.5, 5 years, as long as it took me to actually finish college.
How often were you skating there?
Every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know you filmed a lot then.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of hit my stride like in LA. Like there was amazing spots, you could skate all the time, the weather was good, I was meeting new people, I was exploring, and I was like 19, 20 years old, you know, early 20s, like I was skating a lot. And in the summer I would go to Europe and I would skate with like a crew of skaters I met out there, mostly in Paris. And you know, again, not like trying to be sponsored or anything, but I just really did not see any reason not to skate as much as I possibly could. It started to make sense to me on a very different level. Yeah, I'm noticing all these ditches as we pass by.
Spot right there.
Yeah, it's sick. People go over that little drain?
Yeah, they do.
That's sick. LA, then Paris, briefly, and that was a disaster. Turned out that no matter how many changes I've been through, I was not ready to live in Europe the way that I was living in Europe. And then I went back to LA, and then, yeah, New York, 2002, for 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah, man.
So you never went back to Austin?
I mean, I would go back to visit, but my parents moved from Austin and settled in Northern California in '97, so there was no reason for me to try to go back. I mean, I would see friends, you know.
And now you're in Northern California.
I guess so.
New York, long time, and you're one of those people, I just have to say, you just keep getting better on the skateboard, man. How do you do that?
I don't have anything better to do. You know, like, I think you know, you probably, I don't know if you had the same thing, but when I was 18, I was like, I'm gonna quit when I'm 20. And then when I was 20 and I was still skating, I was like, I'm probably not gonna skate when I'm 25. And then, you know, every year you find a way to continue to skate if you're into it. Are we gonna go right or straight? I mean, I was like ready to quit skating when I got to New York, because I was like, all right, I was just in like the epicenter of skateboarding in LA, and it was kind of boring, and I love skating, but I just don't know, I'm gonna get into other shit when I get to New York. And then I got to New York and I realized that like skateboarding was the absolute coolest thing to do in New York. It felt amazing. It like, and then this way or that way?
Left.
Left. It like connects you to like new people, and especially in New York, like the kind of people you meet who skate are also into other things, because you can't really just be a skater in New York. And so it was like a really organic and authentic way to like connect with like creative, like people who were making art, people who, you know, like were working in media, people who made music, like whatever. Like it was just like, if you were young and cool, you were open to skateboarding in New York. And so, not that I was like tactical about it, but I was just like, oh shit, like not only is it really fun to skate and I can still skate here, but I'm also like meeting really interesting people through skateboarding in New York. So I don't know if I would have quit otherwise, but it definitely added an incentive. And it also was like motivation to try to be good. You know, you're gonna make more friends if they like how you skate.
Yeah.
I guess.
So did you get an undergraduate degree in LA?
Yeah, I got my BA in art history at Occidental, and then waited around like almost 10 years.
So graduate school in New York?
Yeah, Graduate Center, CUNY, City University of New York. And it took me a long time to really, one, decide that I wanted to do grad school, and two, finish grad school. It was like almost, yeah, it was about 13 years. But you know, that's also about the average for a PhD in art history. It's 9 to 12 years, usually, without a master's. So I got my master's on the way, but the goal was always PhD.
So no break in between?
No, just kind of going at a snail's pace.
Yeah.
I wanted to really like immerse myself in like what I was studying. So I wasn't gonna like overburden myself with like speeding through, because I actually really liked the life of being a student. Like I loved caring as much as I had to care, and reading things as intensively, and kind of like looking for meaning with that much ardor. It just made like, you know, you were just stoked all the time, or you're stressed out, but you were like really like living intensely. I mean, I probably would have liked to have finished a little bit earlier, but it didn't really matter. Like I was happy to do it. Like I was finishing my dissertation in 2020, and what a crazy time to like be working on anything. But I was like so glad that I was like had something to escape into, and I had something that like I also could make sense of the world through, you know?
Yeah.
Like when you're writing an essay, you're like looking for connections to things. And I was bartending when I was like in graduate school. I was a walking tour guide. I taught. I always had like 2 or 3 jobs, and that was kind of like important to me, like to be in touch with the real world while you're doing this thing that only a few people would be interested in doing. Yeah. Did I like make a career for myself? No, because I had always had part-time jobs that I didn't want to keep, that I was just taking because I needed to like get through graduate school. But like, did I learn how to balance like my life and my passions and my like what I needed to do with what I wanted to do and what I had to do? Yeah, totally. I hope.
Okay, so for people who don't know,
Yeah.
I first realized like, oh, Ted's kind of famous when you started doing the reviews. So what was that called? Feedback, Ted?
Yeah,
or?
Feedback TS.
Feedback TS, yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea what the TS stood for.
Tail slide?
No. I mean, it was sort of supposed to sound like back tail slide, but it ended up immediately becoming like anything else. Yeah, that was just kind of like a joke. I mean, obviously, but I didn't really expect it to. I wasn't doing that to try to become well known.
Yeah, but it blew up real fast.
Yeah, I sort of stumbled onto the perfect formula of like shit talking, narcissism, and people wanting attention and people wanting to get attention talking shit about the thing that I was speaking about. Like
and some praise in there.
Yeah, sure, of course.
That's what I think that's what a lot of the kids were hoping for, was praise.
Yeah, and every now and then I would keep it real and praise them. But for the most part, I was never really like, I don't think that I'm in any position to give anyone any advice about skateboarding, because I've skated long enough to know that like, this is a subjective activity that we do, and we do in our own way, and the longer you do it, you realize that you have your own understanding about it and someone else is going to approach it differently, and that's okay. No one has to skate a certain way. So I was kind of like, that project was really more about what we look for when we go online, and like, are we looking for approval? Are we looking to troll? Are we looking for love? Are we looking for enemies? And that's what it ended up becoming for me, man. Like, I either made new best friends or had complete and total strangers think that I'm like totally odious and a cancer to the culture of skateboarding. And then probably just forget about me, which is best case scenario. But yeah, it was a really weird time in my life. Like,
the thing that freaked me out was how prolific you were. I was like, how does he have time to watch all these, edit them, and critique them?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time.
I mean, some days you had like 6 videos or something.
I mean, sometimes I would do like, 15.
Yeah.
The process of making those videos, it was like, I would see the video and I would just respond to it. And if I didn't like my response the first time, I'd re-record it. So that's like 2 minutes. And then it takes about like 45 seconds to like edit it and post it. It's not so much the content that I created, it's the management of the content once it was created. Like, it wasn't the thing that was like time consuming and taxing for me emotionally and physically was like just dealing with people's responses.
Yeah.
I mean, and I had to deal with a lot of really outrageous shit. Like people, I had constant threats. And this like weird combination of like, sometimes I feel like everyone hates me, and then like I'm also being told by complete strangers who don't know me at all that they love what I'm doing. And both of them are complete bullshit. Like, none of them mean anything.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I think what you first mentioned about the subjectivity, I think the people who understood that are the ones who really appreciated it, regardless of what.
Yeah. Oh, that's
what else was going on.
Awfully generous. I hope you're right. I mean, I was at, the reason I was at this conference was because of that. Should we go in here? Or?
Yeah.
Because of that persona and
making connections in the industry, you mean?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
like not purposely for me, but people knew me, and they kind of, the people who liked what I was doing wanted to involve me in other things that I really like to do. So there was a lot of like kind of stress and anxiety around that account, but it paid off really well. I mean, here I am in Phoenix.
I really don't know, but I would guess that you're here more so because of all the work you've done with.
Yeah, I mean it's a bit of both. Yeah, but I was doing that while I was doing feedback, and I would try to like.
Yeah, you were working at some point. You started working at museums and stuff.
Yeah, I had a job as a curator at a museum. One of the reasons I was so prolific is that I had a huge commute. You know, like my commute to and from work was 90 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So you know I was going to be on my phone. That's, you know, 3 hours of like phone time coming to and coming from work. And the other thing is that I sort of noticed that, you know, being a curator, working at a big institution or a small institution, but things move really slowly. And the kind of spark of like inspiration that you have for a cool idea that you want to write about or present or think about art in a certain way, it takes months to get there, to see that thing come to fruition. And one of the things that I really liked about feedback was just like, I could put out the video, get people's responses. I could kind of have a whole emotional metabolism, and it was instantaneous, you know? I mean, I think that's why like people get addicted to creating content, is they like the dopamine rush and they like the thrill of it. So one of the reasons I was so prolific is because it was fun. I enjoyed it. And it was a different rhythm of like how many people I was reaching, what responses I was getting, and what that meant compared to like a museum where if you're lucky, 150 people will go to that show, and maybe 12 of those 150 people will read the museum label and like actually think about what you're trying to say about the work of art on the wall, which is what a curator does on some level. So I really like that I was making jokes, but I was being honest about what I loved about skateboarding.
And art.
And art, yeah. And I, you know.
What were your responsibilities then? School part-time, work part-time?
So when I started, yeah, in 2017 when I started that account, I was writing my dissertation, but I didn't have time to do it, to be honest. I was still researching. I was working full-time at a museum, and I was running that account. And I was giving walking tours here and there on the weekend for a little extra money, which was all fun. It's what I love to do. But like, but the feedback shit sort of took over because, you know, all of a sudden, like, people are sending you boxes and like, you know, like pros are sending you their clips, and I've all of a sudden like had this weird place in skateboarding that I never thought I would have or never wanted or anything, you know? Yeah, it's cool. And honestly, I prefer the world of skateboarding much more than the thankless world of academia or art institutions, you know? I'm trained to do that. I like doing it, but while I'm young and I can still kickflip, I'm gonna do this, you know?
What are you doing for work now?
I work for Thrasher. I do a series of video, like this old ledge. Yeah.
And all that.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up.
Oh yeah.
Where you lived.
Oh yeah.
Just so.
Oh shit. Sorry. So yeah, I was in
Austin, LA.
Austin, LA, New York. Yeah.
18 years.
18 years. Like
wow.
A year and a half in Williamsburg. Another 2.5 years in downtown Brooklyn. Then I lived in Soho in Lower Manhattan with a girlfriend on Spring Street. Then I moved up to the Upper West Side 2007 and lived there until February 15th, 2020.
Day after Valentine's Day, is that how you're laughing?
Well, I mean, it was after Valentine's Day, and also like about 3.5 weeks before the pandemic like shut everything down.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so I mean that's why I know that date, because I was like, I had like 3 normal, very stressful weeks in the Bay Area, and then everything shut down, and it was not normal and stressful for a very different reason. What I forgot, but which is totally true, is that like I was like a very average to shitty skateboarder in high school. Maybe it was insecurity, maybe it was fear, maybe it was all these things, but like somehow in my head, because like eventually I did like film a couple parts and like I can skate a little bit still, but somehow in my head I sort of mythologized, like with rose tinted glasses, like how much I skated and how good I was. It's really embarrassing to acknowledge, to admit, because like, you know, we all could skate, but like I really sort of thought like, I didn't think that I knew that I wasn't good at the time, but in my memory I was like, yeah, I was pretty good. But no, Jake and Zach were the good ones, that was it. You know, you guys could all skate, like, and you skated really fast, which was really cool. But like Jake,
I always thought you were a really good skater, but I know what you mean. Like, I mean,
I was doing all the tricks I could do saw in 4 and 1, but like I didn't have like a good style, and I don't think I skated that fast. And it took me a couple years of living in LA to like get, you know, to like start to jump on stuff and like skate handrails and ollie stairs and skate picnic tables and stuff like that, you know. It was only like right towards I remember I like forced myself to switch crooked grind like the Trinity ledge, the high part. And it was because, in like 95 in high school. And it was only because I was like stressed out that this girl Genevieve was gonna call me or not. Like I was like just sweating bullets over some girl I had a crush on. And so to waste time and to distract myself, I like forced myself to like switch crook the highest ledge that I think anyone in Austin had ever switched crooked at the time. No one was going through the emotional turmoil I was going through because, yeah.
Was that in 10 Losers?
Yeah, I mean, a version of that was in 10 Losers, but like.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
But I think even Chris filmed one like that summer of 95 when I'm skating with Zach, like downtown. And even then I'm like, damn dude, 95, that thing? Like, that was a pretty high ledge. I'm not bragging, I'm just saying like.
It was super high. Yeah,
that was like the first inkling that I like was like could push myself to do something that was like a little bit beyond how I was comfortable skating. High school is fucking weird, man. All right, let's not talk about high school. I mean, but that's the thing, is like something I think clicks when you're in your early 20s, where you're like, you have all the experience of your growth spurt and becoming an adult, a young adult, and you've been skateboarding for 10 years at least, and now you have all the strength, power, and control. You can do that. Like everyone gets really good in their early 20s if they're into it. I mean, I kind of remember like when my Texas Teddy Thrasher footage and Skate and Destroy like came out. Like I saw it at Deluxe, like visiting San Francisco over Christmas break, and I'd filmed it like in September that year. No idea it was ever gonna show up. And even though it's a Thrasher video, like whatever, like I was like, damn, I'm like in a video with Cairo Foster. You know, like in my head I was like, am I like an up and coming skater?
Did you do like a feeble grind at the pier or something like that?
Yeah, Zach Hudson and I filmed doubles lines, and like he board slid hubba, I crooked it, which was not that big of a deal back then. I did a feeble at the loading dock by the bay blocks,
yeah,
and like switchback tail and stuff like that. Like, you know, stuff I can still sort of do now. And it's so weird how like attitude and just how you you know, who you associate with and like how you think about yourself really impacts like how you skate, you know? I guess it's confidence. You could just call it confidence. And that was, like I said, like that was the sort of thing that I tried to shake off a little bit when I left Austin. I gained a little more. I could like, at first it was pretending to be someone else, and then it was like recognizing that I had actually changed and I was someone else. Someone a little bit more confident. Not that much more though.
What photos did you have in mags?
I had not many, dude. Like the first photos I shot that got published were in like French skate magazines. Like I had a switch crook on like a metal edge loading dock in Paris. I also filmed some footage there in '97.
I got a crooked grind in the Trans World, like 2000, I guess. Really random, like shoot, total bail shot too. Sorry, Shad. Shad Lambert and this dude Travis McLaughlin, who used to skate for fun, gnarly, like black ground lord. Not that many photos. I mean, I had a 5-0 fakie on a tiny little like bank or volcano in New York. Oh, a switchback tail in Thrasher.
You recently posted a video clip at that famous ledge spot in New York.
Oh, at Flushing?
Yeah, over the grate.
Yeah.
That was so sick.
Oh, thanks, dude.
How was that lost and then found?
My homie Jay Maldonado, who's like a New York skater and filmer, I've been working on these archival clips for this old ledge, so I hit him up and I was like, yo, like, do you have footage of like people skating, like, you know, this spot, that spot, whatever? He like started sending me all these clips and he's like, oh, I also have like footage of you switchback tailing over the grate at Flushing. Like, you come out regular, you come out fakie. And I was like, really, I did? He's like, yeah, man. And he like said, I mean, I filmed a video part. I did film a video part skating that ledge, but I just forgot who filmed it or when they filmed it. I think it was someone else actually. But yeah, Jay filmed like 3 pretty decent like switchback tailside clips over that ledge.
That's so crazy. He was just sitting on that footage?
I mean, you know, at the time, like Brian Wenning had already switchback tailed it.
Oh, gotcha.
But he put his hands. Yeah, and it was like, you know, I did 2 tricks that no one had done over it, but like I did switchback tail and came out like, you know, like 90, not all the way around, you know?
Yeah. And
then I did a shove it out too. And the shove it was like good enough to get in a 4-on-1, which it did do, but I totally forgot that I'd done the other switchback tail. But you know, even then, like I was like, it's cool that I did this, but I'm not skating for anyone. I'm not trying to skate for anyone. I'm not even trying to like do something that someone else did better than them or whatever. Like, I'm just like, there's no point for me to be filming this. I mean, I always thought that, like, I tell people that like skateboarding kind of teaches you to embrace impermanence. Like, the kids that didn't want to get their boards, like thrash their brand new boards in Christmas, like
yeah.
Those people didn't end up being like skateboarders for very long.
That's amazing. Like, so true.
And I guess like everything's sort of like that. Like, I don't have any nice shit. Like, everything I have is kind of thrashed.
Yeah. And
I don't mind. I still get what I need from it. I like it. And I think it comes from like just knowing that skateboards are tools, you know?
Yeah.
They're not little precious works of art that are delicate and that you can't use. But I know that bikes are kind of beautiful and they're like very elegant in a way that skateboards aren't, so I could understand being
both of these bikes are steel bikes.
Yeah.
They can fall down and get banged up. Ted's on one of my bikes and it's obviously too small for him.
It's still good. It doesn't feel too small.
No, you're doing great. I just
Yeah.
wanted to let the people know, like,
oh yeah,
that's why he looks like a giant on that tiny little bike. So you went from New York to the Bay Area?
Yep.
Okay, now since a lot of my viewers are into bikes, I wanted to ask about bike culture along your way. Well, first of all, how often do you ride bikes?
I don't know, probably like 3 times a week.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, it's usually to like, I have a skate rack, so I just like bike to the spot, and like at least once a week I will like just go on a ride.
Yeah.
But I don't like do like, you know, I have friends who are real serious about it who go to like over Mount Tam and like do the whole thing. Because like the Bay Area is filled with like a lot of skateboarders, and skateboarders can only skate for so long, there's a lot of people that like, as far as I can tell, just need something almost as intense as skateboarding, and so they get into bikes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good, man. You're healthy. You look healthy.
What kind of bikes do you have?
So I get, this dude Ruben runs a used bike thing called SF Bike Trader, and he just builds bikes. He just scours like you know, flea markets and garage sales or whatever all over the Bay Area, and he just rebuilds bikes. So he's built me a couple bikes.
Do you know Chico by any chance?
No. I mean, I see him out skating, like he's cool, but like I haven't gone on a ride with him. He's real into it, right?
Yeah, he has a pro bike. He has a pro model coming out for, I think it's Factor, a really big bike company.
No way.
Yeah, it's a gravel bike. I think it's like a $5,000 bike, maybe more.
That's amazing. Yeah, he's like, who would have thought that like Chico would have been like the kind of feel-good story of the year, like inspiration, longevity skater guy, you know? I mean,
yeah.
Obviously he was always dope, but like, he means a lot more to me now as an example and as someone to like, kind of, everything he seems to be into seems pretty cool.
Back to bikes in the big cities, New York and San Francisco, you know, there's a huge like fixed gear culture in both.
Yeah.
Do you know, were you ever friends with anyone in that culture? Or?
I mean, you know, like in 2007, like when people were getting into, or maybe it's a bit earlier, but I think it was 7, like people were getting into fixed gears, and like there's a good like 3 years where everyone had them. And like even my friend Matt, who's like he like quit being a male model for a while to be a fucking delivery driver, you know, like on a bike, fucking bag.
In New York?
Yeah. And it was also right when he fucked up his knee, so he couldn't skate anymore.
Yeah.
But I never got into it, and most of my friends who were into it for a minute, like, all sort of phased out of it eventually.
Yeah.
Because you either get called back into skateboarding, or if you can still do it, or just like you have a terrible accident.
Yeah. Are you familiar with that crew, MASH?
I've heard of them, yeah. In San Francisco?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'm almost positive that Morford made their first video.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I heard that too.
And it's crazy because I know Cardiel has some clips in it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about those guys when I lived there, like zero.
Right.
And it's so crazy how small that city is, but
but
there's like a whole world I didn't even know about.
That's like what's both great and shitty about San Francisco, is that it's so densely layered and it's like truly urban, you know, like people just living on top of one another. But there's just something about it where people just get stuck in their little valleys and their little hilltops, and like people do not get together in the same way that at least they do in New York, you know. It's like, so it's like very easy for there to be these like amazing ecosystems in their own little microclimates, but they never really overlap with, like, you know, like when you were there, like maybe that was going on and you just had no access to it because you never saw it, you know?
Never.
Yeah.
I never saw them like hanging out with skaters, that's for sure.
Right. And everything was a little bit atomized back then too, right? Like there wasn't a lot of overlap between like that's what I was talking about with New York, like everything kind of mixed together, whereas like in San Francisco, everything's still kind of segregated. I'm gonna thread the needle here.
Looks so sick.
Yeah, it does look good. Tempe at its finest.
Yeah. I never remember anyone being like friends even with like the fixed guys.
Right.
And it's so weird because obviously like Morford and Cardiel were down with them. You know, there were other people.
Yeah. I don't know if there was like a huge scene in New York. If there was, like...
There was and there still is.
Okay, that's cool. I remember going to like a bar in Philly once and I was like, oh, this is all like fixed gear bike people, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's a little more rugged. I mean, I have friends that just do like long distance biking, and they ride over Tam every weekend or every morning or something, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I kind of want to join them because they seem healthy and happy. I'm just usually up riding when they're riding, and they're riding.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage you, man.
Yeah,
Ever since I got a road bike, My legs are like way stronger than they were just 6 months ago. Tell us about how you made the move to the Bay Area.
Ah, shit, man. Okay.
If you want to.
Yeah. I mean, the short answer is that like, I was kind of in the middle of like a life crisis. I'd lost my job. I was really fucking wrapped up in like, you know, my bullshit that I was doing on the internet. Didn't think it was possible for me to finish my dissertation. I just was so overwhelmed with like everything that was going on in the city, and I was broke. You know, it was like a specific kind of midlife crisis, but a fairly typical midlife crisis. And I think in 2 years, I had like 2 ex-girlfriends that lived like within a block of each other. You know, like two people that I would like go blocks out of the way to avoid. And
oh, wow.
You know, it's just like, dude, this city is like closing in on me.
Yeah.
And I went out to San Francisco, and I went out to Berkeley. I would always go out to the Bay Area over the winter break because my mom's out there. And I was just like, you know, in the last year, my mom has gotten in 2 car accidents and she's broken her ankle. And she's not getting any younger.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting any younger. And like, I don't have a wife or kids. This is my family. And I wanted to be close to her.
Yeah.
And, you know, and also just like, New York, you can like, if you have the means and you lack the responsibility, you can act like you're 26 for the rest of your life.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm not saying I've grown up, but I was just like, I sort of realized that like the things that I loved when I was 26, I did not enjoy on the same level when I was 43, you know? And so a friend of mine, Tino, was hiring people for a store. And I was just like, dude, I'm burnt out. I can't do what I was been doing. I just lost my job. Like, I need work that I don't have to take home. And like, I want to work with friends. And he's like, I got you. And so he got me a job at a store. I worked there for like 3 years. And it was a lifesaver. Sometimes in life, like, you have to sort of circle the corrals and...
This was in San Francisco?
Yeah.
Wow.
And like, I got to know San Francisco in a way that I wouldn't have gotten to know it before. And
I've moved many times in my life, and a lot of times it's because I was just in a rut, or you know,
yeah,
because of girl trouble or whatever.
Totally. I mean, I'm not gonna say that was the first like midlife crisis I had in New York, but like, it's like every 6 months something horrible or wonderful happens that completely changes your time there. And I don't
know how people survive there.
If you live there long enough, then you have friends who work at or own restaurants and bars, and they hook you up, and like, you know, there's this whole, you know, black market of deals.
Yeah.
People look out for each other.
Yeah, for sure.
But you know, I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to be like some middle-aged or older person that like relies on their friends to feed them. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
And I was just like, I got to do something, because like being a graduate student and even being a teacher or whatever, like I'm actually broke still, and I'm working my ass off. We cross here?
Yeah.
And so I was, you know, in some ways, like, I just wanted to earn money and not worry about it.
Yeah, well, I'm proud of you, man.
Thank you. I'm proud of you.
I've been thinking this whole time, if I know anyone who has a doctorate degree. I mean, I have some coworkers, but they're not friends from when I grew up.
Yeah.
And I can't think of anyone.
I mean, but like I was saying, like, all of the people we grew up skating with, like, ended up doing these really weird, peculiar things, all of which are as intense or as involved as, like, getting a PhD, you know? Like, and a lot of those people got really successful, or like have good lives as a result of their weird passions, like,
yeah,
you know.
The one that comes to my mind is Schmally.
Yeah,
he does tile, but he travels more than anyone I know.
Right. Not being a very good skateboarder, but knowing that I love skateboarding, and not being a very good student, but knowing that I love learning, kind of wired my brain to just like do exactly what I wanted to do because I loved it, and not worry about like what the, you know, I knew that I kind of figured out if you are doing what you love, you don't have to work a day in your life, but you may have to move to San Francisco. But yeah, I mean, it's like, currently I mean, here we are, like it's, I'm not bragging, but it has paid off in really unexpected, exciting ways, you know?
Yeah.
It's cool to be able to like do these sort of events and like catch up with old friends randomly just because I happen to be out here. And I don't know.
Thiba's number in your phone?
Oh, hell yeah.
That's so sick.
I'm on his like regular text thing, like, you know, tell me to keep pushing and I got this. Growing up in Austin, you sort of feel like you're on the outside of skateboarding in some ways, like the industry. And then you realize it's just a bunch of other people that are just like you know?
Yeah. Yeah, Roger's got to be my favorite skate company.
They're amazing. Holy shit.
Max and
yeah, that's
Ryan. And
I mean, I have an unhealthy, right or left?
Either way.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I have an unhealthy kind of like, I watch those videos and often cry because I'm just like,
yeah, I love looking at all the spots.
Love looking at the spots. I love the way that it's a really unique, cool team. They're funny and cool and weird, and like, I just love the way that skateboarding looks in Austin, no matter what, you know? Having grown up there, you know what the spots feel like.
Speaking of bikes and skateboards, do you know Sieben worked for T1 for a long time?
No, that makes sense. You know, I worked.
One BMX company.
Yeah, I worked for Trend in high school.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was in the skate shop, so I never had beef with those BMX guys. Like,
I got my first nice bike from Trend.
No way. Yeah, me too.
A GT Mach 1.
That's sick.
That got stolen when I was in San Francisco. What the hell is this?
You know, coincidentally, I got like I think it was like a Flowable Flyer or a PK Ripper.
Oh, sick.
Like from Trend, you know, with my discount. And I love that bike. That bike was sick. And then it somehow ended up in San Francisco at Zach's place.
Wow.
And he was riding it down Valencia one day, and Javante Turner and Mickey like show up on either side of him, and they're like, yo, you better sell us your bike.
What?
Yeah. And so like, Zach ended up selling my bike to Javante Turner.
That's crazy, dude.
I know.
It was a 20-inch race bike?
It might have been, it was the bigger one.
Oh, like a 24-inch cruiser?
Yeah.
Sick.
And
would be worth a lot of money now.
I know. Well, it kind of caused like a rift in our friendship, because like he like called me up. I was living in New York. It's not like I was ever gonna see the bike again.
Yeah.
But he's like, dude, guess who I sold your bike to? And I was like, who? And he's like,
this is Zach Martin?
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Let's go right here.
Okay. And he's like, Javante Turner, like right this way?
Yeah.
Okay. And I was like, yeah, that is fucking crazy. And I was being a dick kind of, but I was just like, I didn't even know you had my bike, first of all. And second, like, how much did you get? Oh, watch out, watch out.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know, I don't know, $400. And I was like, well, where's my $400, dude? And what he didn't tell me, what he probably would have if I hadn't been such a dick, is like he got kind of thugged out. Like he basically got jacked.
I kind of
that. And like here I am being like, even you know, instead of being like, dude, I'm so sorry that happened, that must have sucked, I was like, where's my money, dick? And but you know,
something very similar happened with my bike.
And that really made me realize, like, especially with someone like Zach, like how much I had growing up compared to him, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna give Zach shit about that, like, ever in my life after that, because I was like, oh yeah, he had no choice, and like, he needed that bike more than I did.
Yeah. We're gonna go left here.
Okay.
You have any good stories about any traveling stories, like Europe or anything?
I mean, I got so lucky. Like, the first summer I went to London, the first time I went to Europe, I started out in London with a friend, and the first day I'm skating around, I'm totally overwhelmed with London, but I'm seeing all this shit to skate, and I'm on like my like East Coast wannabe Donnie Barley toy machine, like skate weird cities swag.
Sick.
And I see this like empty fountain in front of Buckingham Palace. It's the, what is it called? It might be the Victoria Fountain or something like that. And it was empty, and it had these little transitions, these little walls. And so I'm like skating it, and I'm like scooping little cool backside alleys. And backside ollies, did I say alleys? Anyway, I fucking immediately sprained my ankle. First day in Europe. Fuck, man.
That sucks so bad.
I couldn't even walk, Brian. Like, I was like, it was that bad. And so like, I didn't see anything else of London. I was hobbling through Vienna, like still in a lot of pain through most of Italy. But finally by Paris, I could skate again. And
where were you staying?
like at youth hostels.
Oh, gotcha.
But like, so all I knew was like, I was like, I'm just gonna like skate around Paris, like, and just explore. And I just skated towards the Eiffel Tower. When I get to the Eiffel Tower, it turns out that those like, you know those like bowls in video days that Gons and Danny Way are skating?
Yeah.
Those are under the Eiffel Tower. But they're only empty once every 7 years.
That's insane.
And so they filmed that in 1990, and I'm like skating, I'm there in 1997. It just so happens that I get to skate this like once in a lifetime skate spot. And
how many people were there?
there was like a handful of kids, like, but that spot was like rocking that summer, you know? And so like within a week, like I met these two kids skating there, and they took me to like La Défense, which is that double set, and the big hubbas. Are we keeping going straight?
Oh, we can go right here.
Okay.
We're
And
almost back.
yeah. No, I know where we are now, I think. So like within a week, I've met like this crew of skaters that like ended up becoming some of my lifelong friends, just because I like happened to meet some random kids skating those bowls in Paris after like a month of not being able to skate in Europe and spraining my ankle. It was sick. And I ended up going on like another like skate tour or whatever. Like, it just so random, like where skateboarding can take you, you know? And that was the other thing. I kind of like met up with a crew of skaters who were like trying to film and shoot photos and shit. Like they were like, you know, distributor sponsored French skaters. So I was like filming a lot that summer and like shooting photos and stuff. And that felt cool too, because it was like, oh, I'm like a visiting skater, and people are interested in, they don't know that all I can do is feeble grinds and switch backside tail slides. That was cool. I mean, I've had like...
Let's cross over here by Cowtown.
Okay. Actually...
Shout out Cowtown.
Shout out Cowtown. And Cartel. I go to Cartel and get a coffee and a burrito every morning when I'm out here.
Oh, sick. Good coffee for sure.
Yeah. But no, here's a crazy one. So this is one of those turning point moments where like, you're like, am I into art history or am I into skateboarding? 2017, I'm like working at a museum, and there's a symposium about one of the artists that I'm writing my dissertation about in Worcester, Massachusetts. And so I convinced my museum to let me take time off to go to this symposium. I pay for it myself, I pay for my travel, you know, the bus. I pay for my Airbnb, whatever. But like, at least I have like a couple days to do this on my own. And I'm doing feedback too, of course, but like, you know, this is like, I'm there for this symposium. It's 2 days of the symposium. It's really great, it's awesome.
And then I was supposed to go to Boston to stay at my friend Andy Henry's house with his wife and baby and mother-in-law. But he's like, we're in New York, but my mother-in-law's there and she'll let you in. But if she's not there, like, here's the code and here's where I live. And so I take this late train into Boston, which a city that I don't know. And my phone is already at like 13%. And so I take the subway out to like wherever he lives. This is 3.5 miles outside of Boston. And it's snowing, it's February. And I go out to like where I think his house is. I fall in the snow on the way there. I'm also just so exhausted. And I try the code and it's not working.
Oh man.
And I try calling him, but I know he has like a newborn baby and they're in New York and like, you know, there's not much you can do for me. So I'm like, fuck man, like, and I have no money. I'm broke because I work at a museum and I paid for this trip already and I was supposed to be staying a night for free at my friend's house. And I go back to the subway station and they're closing at midnight. You know, the subway closes. I don't have Uber, I don't have Lyft. There are no cabs. I call a cab and they're like, yeah, we'll send someone out there if we have someone. But like, I call back 45 minutes later and they're like, you know, there's no one, we don't have any drivers tonight. I don't know Boston. Like there's like, you know, there's a meme that like shows Manhattan's grid, which is a grid, and it says, New York City, because we want to help you get to where you're going as quickly as possible. And then it shows Boston's grid, which is this colonial mess, and it says, Boston, because go fuck yourself. And I'm walking through this, I'm using my GPS on my phone, which is quickly dying. I have no fucking money. And I see one cab and I run to the cab and it's full, the fare is taken. And so I'm just walking, I'm like, dude, my phone's gonna die before I even get to anywhere where I can like stay, because it's a ghost town here. I see one person 3 blocks up, random person. And I'm like carrying my bags. I got a suit on, I got a beanie, a scarf wrapped around my head. I'm carrying a skateboard because I was planning on skating Boston. I didn't know it was gonna snow. And I like kind of run up on him looking crazy. And I'm like, I don't want to disturb you. I just like have to ask. And I didn't even know what I was gonna ask. I was probably gonna ask like, do you know like an all-night laundromat where I can just keep warm or something? And he's like, I know who you are. He's like, you like filmed my friend's nose manual nollie flip like last week and I started following you. And I was
No
like,
way.
yeah. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, man, like, what are you doing here? And I was like trying to explain. And I was just like, dude, can you like give me a ride into like to a hotel or something? And he's like, like my friends are supposed to pick me up. Like, let me call them. And the next thing I know, like, you know, I'm like in a car with like these, you know, 22-year-olds smoking cigarettes and listening to hip hop who all skate. And they like drive me like 4 miles to a hotel.
Sick.
I was just like, I love art history and I love like that world, but skateboarding saved my life that night, not art history, you know?
Wow, what a great ending.
Oh yeah, perfectly timed, right?
You found your way back too,
Yeah.
good job.
Here we are.
Yeah, that was amazing. Really appreciate it, man.
Hell yeah, dude. No, it's really good to catch up.